This is road safety for you, driving forward for safer roads. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about understeer and oversteer. Now, there is a lot to cover with both these subjects, understeer and oversteer. I plan to do one video with both, but now because there's so much involved, I'm going to split into two videos, one understeer, one oversteer. So we're going to deal with understeer first. Before I continue, guys, just to let you know, there is subtitles in Tagalog on the bottom. You'll see the subtitle. If you click on that, you'll get subtitles in Tagalog. Okay guys, so I've got some notes that I've prepared because there's such a lot to go through. Understeer happens in all motor vehicles, so whether it's a motorcycle, a car, a van or a truck, understeer can happen in all these vehicles and lots of situations. To simplify, it's when a vehicle turns less than planned or anticipated. In other words, if you turn the steering this way and the car refuses to respond for a moment or two and you effectively take the corner wider, that's understeer. So the car understeers into the corner, does not steer the way you planned. Now, I'm going to put two clips on just to demonstrate what understeer actually is so you can see for yourself. Okay guys, so there's two clips, two video clips. You can see clearly what understeer actually is. Now, as I said, it can happen on cars, vans and motorcycles. I'm going to be covering cars, vans, trucks, buses, four-wheel vehicles altogether, and then I'm going to deal with motorcycles in the second part of this video. So understeer can happen to two-wheel vehicles or four-wheel vehicles, as we said. Understeer happens more often in front-wheel drive vehicles. So like a car, front-wheel drive, it happens more often in that situation. Cars with rear-wheel drive, that tends to be oversteer, which I'm going to cover in the second video. It will follow this video. There are many causes of understeer, but we can split these into like three categories of what causes understeer. It's either driver, the vehicle itself, or environment, the environmental. Now, I'm going to go through these for you just to explain so you know what each of them, the causes are. So let's take these one at a time. Driver. The causes can be late steering inputs. So not steering as quickly as you should. That can cause understeer. That could be maybe because of tiredness, fatigue. Could be because of a medical issue. Maybe a driver not feeling well, so he's slow to respond. Could also be alcohol or drugs. Okay, so those are the main causes of driver when understeer occurs. So it can be poor driving skills. It can be using the accelerator pedal midway through the corner. So when you're halfway through the corner, you don't want to be going on the gas too heavily. You can gently go on the gas, but if you go on the gas pedal, it's accelerator pedal. I'm calling it gas pedal because it's easier to say. So the throttle or gas pedal, if you press that heavy, the wheels are just going to spin. Front wheels will spin and the car will understeer, go wide into the corner. Okay, So, poor driving skills, using the gas pedal too early or too heavy, it can cause the car to spin out. Your tyres are trying to keep grip with the road at all times. And if you lose grip with the road, that's when you start to, we call it lighting up the tyres, but the tyres are spinning. And when your tyres are spinning, you're out of control. So sharp or aggressive steering. Well, what we mean by that is if you turn too much, too quickly, the car's just going to slide straight on. It's not going to take the corner because you're turning the wheels too quickly and the weight of the car pushes the car forward. You're not giving the tyres a chance to grip the road. Now also when you're steering, remember that your tyres are not going straight. You're turning the steering and the wheels are kind of going side on. So they are losing a bit of grip there just by trying to corner. You're making it worse by pushing the car forward with either too much gas pedal or just not understanding what you're doing with the car. Okay, so poor driving skills, sharp or aggressive steering, that can cause the effect on the front tyres to lose grip with the road and therefore you're going to slide. You'll understeer into the corner, which is dangerous. At speed approaching the corner or speed in the corner can also cause understeer. So if you're approaching the corner too quickly, too fast, and you turn the steering, the speed is just going to make the car push forward instead of turning the corner. So that produces the understeer effect, like we spoke about. The tyres lose grip with the road and therefore you get understeer. So we've done the driver. Now we're going to have a look at the vehicle itself. What can cause understeer with the vehicle? Poor maintenance, right, or lack of maintenance. So poor maintenance would be like worn out tyres or unevenly worn tyres, different tyre pressures in each of the front tyres. These are things that can produce understeer. I will be covering tyres in a separate video when I can go into more detail with that and explain for you. But basically, tyre wear or tyre pressures, these are important issues that can help reduce the risk of understeer. So defective suspension, that can also be a cause. Your suspension is very important because that is the components that try and keep the tyre in contact with the road at all times. Your car is leaning from side to side as you're cornering. One side gets heavy, tyres are pushed into the ground. The other side goes light. The tyres are struggling to keep contact with the road. So your suspension, shock absorbers, springs, they work together to try and keep that tyre on the ground, to try and keep the contact. So if your suspension is defective or worn out, you're going to have big problems with understeer. Okay. The shock absorbers need to perform to a certain level, and there are things that you can look for to see, because some people think, how can I check my shock absorbers? You can actually check quite easily. Two ways: by looking, I'll tell you what to look for, and also by pressing down on the front, the hood of the car. The car should go down once and back up and stop. If your shock absorbers are worn, you push the front of the car down on the hood, the car goes down and does that. The shock absorbers are not absorbing the shock. So good shock absorbers push down, the car does this, it goes down and back up and sits there. That's good shock absorbers. Defective steering or worn components of the steering. So if you turn your steering and the car is delayed in turning, then you could have defective steering components. Now again, you can't go underneath the car and check. You're not a mechanic. You can't check all these individual components. So what you can do is just to sit in the driving seat of the car and just see how much movement there is on the steering wheel. before you feel the wheel starting to turn. There should be about an inch of movement on the steering wheel. If there's any more than that, then you've got what we call free play. In other words, some of the components may be worn. And if you're driving the car into a corner and you turn the wheel and there's a slight delay, that is going to produce understeer. Next up is the environment. We mentioned environmental things that can cause understeer. First one we're going to talk about is road conditions. Wet or greasy road surfaces, loose gravel on the road, these can cause the front wheels to lose grip, and therefore you're going to have understeer. So road conditions are very important because your tyres are trying to grip the road, but if the road has a problem, then you've got an environmental issue. So it could be, as I say, wet roads, heavy rain, that can cause your tyres to lose grip, especially if you're going fast. That's why it's important to slow down in bad weather. Broken or uneven road surface. So there may be roadworks going on. There may be cracks in the road or indeed holes in the road. So as a driver, we have to be looking for these. And again, if you're going too fast, you're not going to see the holes on the road or the cracks in the road. But these things can cause the front wheels to lose the grip of the surface. If you hit a hole, the tyre goes down and bounces up. You're going to lose a certain amount of grip there, and that's going to produce the understeer effect again. Debris on the road. Debris could be lots of things. I'm not going to list them all, but you guys are drivers, you see what lies on the road. It could be, again, like leaves or gravel. It could be foreign objects that have blown. High winds blows things onto the road, like trees, branches, lots of things, okay? So debris on the road. Again, the faster you're travelling, the less you're going to see. So it's always good to keep a moderate speed. Drive within the speed limit and you'll have a better chance of seeing things that are on the road, any debris. Right guys, I said that we were going to move on next to cover motorcycles. There's a lot to go over with motorcycles again. Motorcycles are obviously a bit different. Think on it this way guys. Look at your motorcycle, any motorcycle. Doesn't matter about the size of the engine. You look at your motorcycle and I want you to think how much of that motorcycle is in contact with the ground. How much of it is actually touching the road. I'm going to put my hand up because that's the amount of tyres, both tyres, that are touching the ground. Hard to think about, it's scary to think about. But that's the size of area, my hand, that's in contact with a motorcycle on the ground. So tyres are really important. Now you're probably aware that motorcycle tyres are different shaped to car tyres. Car, van, trucks and bus, the top of the tyre is always a bit flat and then it curves down. But a motorcycle tyre is almost circular at the top and it's got lines all the way around the sides. That's because a motorcycle leans into the corner. So if the tyre's leaning in, you're going to need more grip on the side of the tyre. Cars and vans and trucks don't need that, but a motorcycle does. So that's the difference in the shape of the tyre and the performance of the tyre. So understeer can be a common occurrence in motorcycles as well as cars. Again, it's about understanding your vehicle, your motorcycle. It's about understanding yourself as a driver. So again, you can break these into three sections of driver, maintenance and environmental. I'm not going to go through it all again because I went through that with cars and vans and trucks. But what I can say to you is, make no mistake, a motorcycle will still understeer. That's an important thing to remember. Some people think a motorcycle cannot understeer. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. So, excessive speed into a corner is a common occurrence with a motorcycle, sadly. But motorcycles are more agile, they're more nimble. So they tend to go into a corner carrying a bit more speed than other traffic, that increases your risk of understeer. So the faster you're going, the less grip you've got on the road, particularly in the corner. Improper use of the gas. We said about throttling gas, I'm calling it gas so it's easier to say. So improper use of the gas. If you're on a motorcycle and you're taking a corner, if you go on the gas too early and too much, you are going to light up the rear wheel and the bike is going to get out of control. That's going to produce a bit of oversteer, but you can get understeer in that situation as well. So it's important to understand these things. I will be making a separate video about motorcycles, about helmets, basic maintenance and daily checks that you can make on your motorcycle to look for things that could go wrong. That will be in a separate video. Sadly here in the Philippines, motorcycles are overloaded a lot of the time. And what I mean by that is, no matter what motorcycle you've got, big one, small one, any motorcycle with no sidecar attachment, so any motorcycle, no sidecar, is designed, built and tested for carrying 2 average size adults. That bike is built for 2 average size adults, tested as well. As I say, here in the Philippines, it's a common occurrence to see sometimes maybe even 4 people on a motorcycle, a small one as well. So what's the dangers with that? Well, the brakes are having to work harder because of the excessive weight on the bike, and also the point of balance. The point of balance goes right through the middle of yourself. So if you're on your motorbike, you're perfectly balanced. If you've got 4 people on there and they're all sitting at different positions, your balance starts to change, it starts to shift, and that can produce an effect on the handling of your motorcycle, particularly in cornering. If you're on your motorcycle on your own and you turn the motorcycle to take a corner, you know how much the motorcycle is going to lean into the corner. But if you get 4 people on there, even kids, that's going to change the dynamics of the corner, the dynamics of the motorcycle, how much it's going to lean in. Some people overcompensate, so they lean too much and then they have to bring it back up again. Or the opposite, they don't lean enough. And that's when the understeer comes in, not leaning enough into the corner, because that makes the motorcycle stay more upright, and then you're going to take the corner at a much wider angle than you anticipated. So be careful, guys. I can't stop you from overloading your motorcycle. You want to drive with 4 people on your bike? That's your decision. I'm just telling you the risks involved, because your risks are going 4 times as high, okay? Especially if it's adults. Kids, children, I see kids sitting at the front of the motorbike and the adults are sitting behind. Where's the most dangerous part of the motorcycle? What part of the motorcycle is probably going to be in an accident first? The front. The kids. That's where the kids are. So it's not a good idea, guys, to be having the kids on the motorcycle sitting at the front. I know it's difficult. Families are trying to get around transport-wise, but a motorcycle is not the answer if there's more than 2. A motorcycle just isn't the answer. A tricycle is different because you've got 3 wheels instead of 2, and you also don't have to worry about the balance because that 3rd wheel acts as your balance. So motorcycles, be careful, guys. No matter what motorcycle you're driving, large or small, power does not come into it. It's about the balance. That's the important thing. So overloading, too many passengers, or it could be cargo or baggage. So it's not just about carrying people. It could be excessively heavy baggage that you've got on your motorcycle or cargo. That again, it's just got the exact same effect as extra people. In other words, the balance of the motorcycle is going to be different. Going into the corner is going to feel different. It has an effect on your tyres, it has an effect on your brakes, has an effect on a lot of things on your motorbike and your judgment. Your judgment as a an experienced rider. You got heavy weight on the back of your bike. You're trying to lean into a corner. You're going to have to find where that balance point is. So the more weight you're carrying, the more caution you have to have. I'm not saying don't ride the motorbike without a load. You sometimes have to have a load on the back. It just means you have to be more careful, especially on the corners, especially because you might start to produce understeer. Okay, guys. And lastly is the improper use of the brakes. A motorcycle has two brakes, front and rear. The ideal way to use your brakes is to use them equally. So equally at the front, equally on the back. That again keeps the balance of the motorcycle in a safe area. If you're using too much front brake, you're shifting all the weight of the motorcycle onto the front tyre. In other words, you're stressing the front tyre to perform more, to grip more. And sometimes that tyre, depending on the condition of the tyre or the condition of the road surface, it may lose a grip, and that's when you're going to have understeer. Too much brake on the back is oversteer, and I did say I would cover that in the next video, so we'll have a look at that in the next video, guys. So how can we prevent understeer? How can we stop it from happening? You can't. That's the simple answer. You can't stop it from happening because you can be the best rider in the world, the safest rider in the world, but you're not in control of the road surface. You're not in control of the road conditions. So it can happen to anyone, experienced or not experienced. Okay? So a couple of points for you. Never ever drive when you're feeling tired, or if you're feeling fatigued, or you're feeling unwell. These things, these situations are highly dangerous. So never ever drive if you're feeling tired or fatigued or unwell. Never drive if you're under the influence of drink, alcohol or drugs. Now, let me explain a little bit about that for you. My background is from the UK, so we do lots of research in the UK about the effects of alcohol and drugs. Some people think, I've had a drink 2 hours ago, I'll be okay. No, you won't. No, you won't. Because even 2 units of alcohol, I know the units in the Philippines are different to the UK, but even 2 units of Philippine alcohol, that stays in your blood system for a minimum of 12 hours. 12 hours. You might feel fine. You might think, I'm okay. No, you're not, because it's still in your bloodstream. And if you have to give a blood sample roadside, that is going to come up as positive. And you're thinking, but it was hours ago I drank. 4, 5 hours ago. No. It stays in your system for 12 hours. That's half a day. Half a day. The other thing to think about that is if you're drinking alcohol at night time and you have a good sleep, maybe 4 or 5 hours good sleep, are you okay to drive next morning? A lot of people think yes. The answer's no. Why? Because it's still in your bloodstream. You're not past that 12-hour mark. And the other thing that we find in the UK is a lot of people think if they eat plenty while they're drinking, the food is going to absorb the alcohol and it won't take effect on the body. That is completely wrong, because alcohol does not affect your food and your food does not affect alcohol. They are separate and they will remain separate in your system. Now, different people react in different ways to alcohol. Some people might think, I'm okay with alcohol. It doesn't really affect me until I have 5 drinks, maybe 6 drinks. After 2 drinks, you're going to be over the legal limit to drive, and that's going to be in your system for 12 hours. So please take a note of that. And it's exactly the same for drugs. Exactly the same. If you're taking drugs, don't drive. It's as simple as that. Because it's not just your life that you are risking. You're risking other people's lives by driving when you're in that condition. So please think carefully about that. Be aware of your speed, alright? Now that sounds easy. You hear people saying, be aware of your speed. But it's important. It's important. You're riding your motorcycle, you're looking as far ahead as you can. Look at the corner. Start to brake nice and evenly on both brakes, front and rear, evenly before the corner. And then you're going to be 100% safe. If you're riding too fast and you have to brake hard because you see a corner and it's coming much too late, you're putting too much stress onto your tyres. Remember how much contact your motorcycle has with the ground? Probably about the size of my hand. That's the demand you're putting on your tyres. And it's the same for cars and vans, trucks and buses. Exactly the same. You don't brake in the corner. You brake before the corner, and that keeps you safe. You can only see the corner if you're slowing down. If you're going far too fast, that corner is going to come up on you really quickly, and then you're in all sorts of trouble. So speed is very important. Be aware of the speed limit in the road you're driving, because that's there to guide you, that's there to help you. So don't just think it's a law and it's a number that you have to be careful about. It's there for a reason, and the reason is to keep you safe and everyone else. The other thing is smooth steering. Now, smooth steering, the opposite to that is aggressive steering. So if you're going into the corner and you're doing this, your front tyres are moving quickly. You're not giving your tyres a chance to grip the road. You're just going to slide, understeer. So, nice smooth steering. How can you do smooth steering? By slowing down. So it's all linked. If you're going slow enough, and I don't mean like ultra slow, I just mean a little bit slower, you're going to have time to do smoother steering. Don't be caught out with the corner and having to do all that. You're going to lose control. Car, van, truck or bus or motorcycle, exactly the same. Okay, so be aware of your speed, be aware of your steering inputs. Tyre pressures. A lot of people think, my tyre looks okay. You don't know. It may look okay, but it might not be okay because the pressure could be too high or too low. Tyre pressures are ultra important because your tyre manufacturer has tested that tyre, and I mean like really tested it under all sorts of conditions to find out what the ideal pressure of that tyre to give you the maximum amount of grip. So consult your owner's manual, your book on a motorcycle. Same with the car, truck or bus. Tyre pressures, ultra important. So we're just generalising about all vehicles here. Look at the owner's manual, look at the booklet, and it will tell you what the tyre pressure should be. On some cars, if you open the driver's door, there's a sticker down on what we call the post, where the door actually locks. If you look inside the car, inside the door, sometimes there's a sticker there, and it'll give you the tyre pressures for front and for rear. So tyre pressures are ultra important. The other thing about tyres is conditioning the tyres. Is there cracking on the sides? Is there any bits that are bulging, misshaped tyre? Is your tread, the tread is the lines on the top of the tyre, are they in good condition? All of these things are all designed to help you stay safe. So if you have a defective tyre, then that can cause problems with your control. Suspension, we mentioned suspension earlier on, and I said it was shock absorbers and springs. Well, that again, it's general. It's cars, vans, trucks, and motorcycles. They all have shock absorbers. What does the shock absorber do? It absorbs the bumps on the road. If you did not have any shock absorbers on your vehicle, you're going to drive along the road and you're going to be constantly bouncing because the spring's working. So the shock absorber stops the vehicle from bouncing and keeps it nice and steady. As I said earlier, you want to test your shock absorbers. Lean on the hood of the car, push it down, the car should be down, and come back up and stop. If your shock absorbers are worn or defective, you push it down and it's just going to keep bouncing for about 4 or 5 times. So it should go down once, back up and stop. That's good shock absorbers. Again, with a motorcycle, it's exactly the same with cars, vans and trucks. Never ride a motorcycle when you're feeling tired, fatigued, or if you're feeling unwell. Wait until you're feeling better, because you're just increasing the risk of having an accident. And it's not just you. You can actually obviously hit other people or cause other people to be injured. So you need to think about other people as well as yourself. So never drive if you're feeling tired, fatigued or unwell. Never use alcohol or drugs. I've covered that already, so you know why and the effects it can have on you. Cornering at speed. Again, we covered that, but now we're going to be talking about the brakes on a car or a motorcycle or van. You go into a corner, you got to recognise the corner. And what I mean by recognise is it a gentle corner or is it a sharp corner? Sometimes it's difficult to tell. I'm going to be covering this subject in another video, and I'm going to teach you guys how to read the road. We call it reading the road. I'll just tell you, I can drive on any road, even here in the Philippines, anywhere in the world. I can drive on a road, and before I get to a corner, I know how sharp that corner is or how gentle it is just by reading what I can see. We read the road, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do that. It's amazing the effect it can have, because you can start to anticipate what the corner is even before you get there. That sounds impossible, but it is possible. And I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. So keep your eyes focused ahead. We always look forward. Try and keep a lookout for the corner, how sharp it is. Is there any footpaths there? Is there any pavements for people to walk on? Because if there's no footpath, there could be people walking on the road out of sight just around the corner. So if you're keeping the speed down, keeping in control, you're going to be prepared for that. Okay? With a motorcycle, you want to learn, and I mean learn, you have to learn the control issue. In other words, how much to lean into a corner, how much not to lean. That's not something I can teach you or anyone can teach you. That is something that comes from experience. You have to learn it yourself. We can tell you that you have to lean into a corner, but how much? That's what you have to learn. So you have to experiment a little bit. Don't go aggressive with it. You just do a little bit at a time, and then you'll learn how much you can lean into the corner. How much a motorcycle leans into the corner. We spoke about tyres being circular in shape at the top. The more you lean into a corner, the more dangerous you get to the edge of that tyre's grip. In other words, where the lines stop. So if you're really leaning into a corner, you're almost at the level and the limit where that tyre is actually going to lose grip. So be aware about how much you lean into a corner. It looks pretty cool. It looks cool when a motorcycle is leaning right down, but that tyre is on the limit of adhesion and grip. So be aware of that, guys. Your motorcycle tyre is designed for the motorcycle to go over at a certain degree of angle. All tyres are different, so I can't tell you how much or how little. It depends on the tyre that's fitted on your motorcycle, and it depends on the condition of the tyre and your tyre pressures. So you see how everything's linked. It's not just about the tyre. There's so many factors involved with the tyre. Again, I'm going to get into this in more detail in a future video. Car, van, truck, bus or motorcycle. Use of the gas pedal or the throttle. If you go through a corner and you're using too much gas, you're going to light up the tyres. By lighting up the tyres, what do I mean? I mean the tyres are going to spin. Because if you're using all of that power, the power goes to the tyre, and if it's not got much grip anyway, then it's just going to spin. When the tyre spins, that's when you lose control. So it's all about speed, remember. But you control the speed of the motorbike or the car or the truck. You control the speed by the gas pedal or the throttle on a motorcycle. Be aware of how much throttle you're using, because it can affect the handling of your vehicle. Okay? And that covers it all for you guys. Next time we're going to be going through oversteer. which is the opposite to understeer. You can see there's been a lot in this video, and I hope that you've understood some of the technical data which I've been going over, and it's improved your understanding of your motorcycle or your car and yourself. Remember, you have to understand yourself, how good you are. So hopefully you've learned something from today's video. And remember guys, all of my videos, as I say, there are subtitles down there in Tagalog. If you want subtitles, will make it easier for you. So you just press the button for the captions or subtitles down below there. Again, I would welcome any comments you have. Please feel free to drop a comment or ask a question. I am more than willing to go over things with you and answer your questions. If you've got any suggestions for future videos that you would like me to cover, have any subjects you want me to have a look at regarding road safety, again, please just drop a line below. I'll read every comment, and I do appreciate every single new subscriber to the channel, every single like. I value them deeply. So if you have the chance, or you can afford the time, please hit the like, subscribe and share for the channel, guys, because we want to grow together. This is your channel. As I said earlier in other videos, I'm just the guy in front of the camera, but I want you to be in control of the content that goes into these videos, and I can share my experience with you for free advice and questions. I'll try and answer your questions, guys. So I'll see you again next time. Drive safe, be safe always. Bye bye from James.